Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Tayler Kuehndorf on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Wisconsin. She's an NPC bikini athlete. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Taylor, so why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle? What was your inspiration?
I would say since I was little, I've always been really uncomfortable in my body. And I've had two sisters, a younger sister and an older sister, and they're both super thin. And I was kind of the odd one out. So I've had to work, twice as hard to look thinner. And I've just decided one day I want to, gain some muscle and stop being uncomfortable in my body. So.
Absolutely. And I always sort of like to make the analogy where if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's going to be 100 different ways as to how they got the way that they look, whether it comes to their nutrition, their diet, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. Was that a struggle for you at first, sort of finding out what worked best for your body? Because like I said, if you were to go up to someone and ask what they did, it's going to be different for them and it's going to work out different for your body as opposed to theirs.
Yeah, I kind of started the fitness journey. I saw other people on Instagram, getting into bikini competitions and bodybuilding and stuff. I found women that I liked their lifestyle, not just the way they looked, so how they got their bodies with like eating a lot and minimal cardio. And I followed what they did. And that's how I actually hired my coach, Jessie Palmer. She's an NPC pro. And I saw she wasn't starving herself to compete like a lot of girls do. And she was doing minimal cardio and just living a healthy, lean lifestyle year round. And so I kind of followed people that I wanted to look like and live like.
And when you were starting out, did you ever have that moment where you were just like, oh my God, I really want to compete, or I think that would be something that would be cool for me? Was there a moment for that? And how long into your training did that take?
Actually, I started working with Jessie in January because I started January 3rd. It was my New Year's resolution to stop kind of with the BS. I have had eating disorders since I was little, and I kind of just wanted to stop with the binging and, excessive cardio and stuff. And so I signed up for the program and I haven't looked back since. But I didn't want to compete right away. I thought maybe I just wanted to build a base before I got into competing. So I would say in May or June, my coach and I decided that I was ready to compete. So I started prepping in July.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's just, you definitely need to get a long prep ahead, especially for your first show. But what was your nutrition like before you started the transformation, and how does your nutrition sort of adjusted?
Like I said, since I was in middle school, I've had different disordered eating habits. And I think leading up to it, the year before that, it was a lot of like binging and then going to the gym and doing hours of cardio, or you know what I mean? And then feeling like I look okay. And then I'd go eat half a box of Oreos or like, a bunch of ice cream and crap. And it was just, the cycle never ended. And especially around Christmas with the cookies. So that was kind of my diet. I have such a sweet tooth. So now I track my food on MyFitnessPal and track my macros. So I just stay within those, and I can have like 1 or 2 Oreos a day if I want to, but I don't eat the whole thing, the whole box.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely all about the portion. So when you were doing your first prep, I always like to hear first prep stories, because so many people, I mean, like you said, when you're starting to get healthier, when you're starting to adapt that, I mean, that diet can be hard enough in and of itself, but going on prep, that's really notching it up a whole different level. What was that experience like for you?
Actually, I would say throughout most of the prep, my dieting was not super extreme because we took about 6 months to build my metabolism. So we reverse dieted before I even started prep cutting. My carbs at the absolute lowest were at 140, and that was for just a couple weeks. I did a couple days of cardio. It wasn't super dramatic just because I took the time to get my body healthy beforehand. If I wouldn't have, then I probably would have had to take dramatic measures, but...
Yeah, we've heard so many stories just about, how that can really just shock the system and affect it. But it was really good that you kind of laid that foundation on before, because some people do rush into it. And that's one of the things that I've come to find when doing this. And one of the things that I love to talk about is, obviously I'm a very pale person myself. So when it comes to putting that tanner on, what is that feeling like for you? Because we have so many people come on here. It's like, I saw so many muscles that I never knew I never even had. I mean, it was just a whole eye-opening process for me. What was that experience like for you when you put that tan on for the first time?
Honestly, that is my least favorite part about show day. It is disgusting. You feel like you can't move, but your muscles do really pop. You almost get like it gets so dark that I feel like it covered some of the lines that I had. So it's a little too dramatic. But when you have the makeup and the hair and the tan and everything comes together, it's really exciting. But
yeah, we've heard so many horror stories about, like people don't realize that it gets really smelly usually on backstage because people aren't allowed to, use deodorant because it messes with the tan. Yeah. So everyone out there, like I've always said, for if there's any guys or any girls out there that go to those shows to maybe, like go talk to some of the people, it's like, don't go backstage. You're not gonna like what you smell back there. So just take my word for it. But yeah. So, and I have a lot of up and coming bands as well as health and fitness people on the show. And I love to ask them the question of, what is that feeling like for you personally when you got to step on stage and show off, all of that hard work, all of that diet and training that has taken, months on months to get ready for the show. What was that feeling like for you when you were able to step on stage and show it off?
Honestly, my first show was the best day of my life. It was so fun. I mean, going up to it, you're nervous because you have no idea what to expect. And it's like, why would I want to walk around on stage in a bikini and heels? But then you get up there and I was just so proud of all the work I put in. And I feel like if you do work your hardest, you know that you belong up there. So
what show did you compete at?
My first one was North Star in Burnsville.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
That's literally 5 minutes from where I'm talking to you right now. So yeah, we got cool. So now we got a little bit. Yeah, that's close. Yeah, that's actually really, really cool. And how'd you do in that?
I actually got first in my novice class and in the open. So
that's awesome. And when was that competition?
October 6th.
October. Oh, wow. So we were just recent. So we're getting off a little less than, or no, just about a day after a month. Yeah. Anniversary from that. Yeah. So that's awesome. So how has your body adjusted? Because one of the big things that I also like to talk about is people don't realize that when people look at these people that when they're competing, they do not look that lean or that look is not sustainable 365 days of the year. I've had so many people say like, oh my God, he or she just must be absolutely jacked or ripped like all year round. And it's like, no, that's just what they do really to get ready. And most people don't realize that that people do gain weight after. I mean, I've had some people who hours after the show, they've already gained like 6 pounds just from the eating. How has that process been like for you after the show and make sure that like you don't just like balloon up? Because I've had people on here who get like anxious, they get depressed because they put on like 10-20 pounds within like a week, and then it's really hard for them mentally. How have you adjusted to that?
Honestly, I've heard that post-show is harder than prep, and I think it's true because prep, you're looking forward to the show. You're like, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, and every day you just know it's getting closer and you're going to be okay and you get to eat more. But then post-show, you have to reverse diet, which I know you're probably familiar with reverse dieting, but it's so important so that you don't blow up. And I was not about to let those, months of hard work be thrown away for, a couple pints of ice cream and a burger, you know what I mean? Just binging out because I was hungry. The day after the show, I took one day off to just eat and whatever I wanted. And then after that, I was back on track with my macros. And my metabolism has been boosted so high since. I'm so hungry every day. I actually just texted my coach this morning and I weighed myself and I'm at my lowest weight of ever.
Wow.
And so we've added calories in every week and sometimes twice a week since the show has, since my show. But like my metabolism is so high that I'm burning. So I'm pretty lucky that like it's all about mindset, honestly, because a lot of people get super down. It's like, what do I have to look forward to? And, you have to gain weight after your show because it's not sustainable. So I made sure I did not let myself get into that funk because and I followed my diet perfectly because I know that it will be worth it in the long run.
Absolutely. It's just one of those things that I also like to stress out people who are starting out. It's like, it's not going to be one of those things that you're going to see results early on. I mean, it's going to take hard work. It's going to take a lot of time. But once you get into that funk, it is very hard to break it. I mean, I have started a job that takes a lot of my time, so I'm not able to work out as much as I could. I'm more going like 2 to 3 days a week. But because I've laid down that foundation, it has made things so much easier where like it comes like you were talking about, like my metabolism allows me to sort of do some of those things. So it really is just about laying that foundation and then letting it sort of take control. But you did mention that you took the one day off. What did you have to eat on that one day?
Well, actually, the night after the show, I got Texas Roadhouse and I had a bunch of brownies and candy and Texas Roadhouse buns, and I'm not going to lie, I threw up because my body just wasn't used to it. And then the next day I just kind of ate, like I had some candy and I had a Halo Top, and I just it was just nice to not weigh out my food. All I did was eat without weighing my food, really. I had oatmeal. Like,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, just letting yourself go. And a lot of people don't realize that if you have not been used to eating that type of stuff, some people do react like you did, and it's just another thing that sort of let the people know, because it's one of those things where, I mean, so many people don't know a lot about bodybuilding, so there's so many misconceptions, and it's just I just loved helping to break some of those stereotypes. Probably the biggest one that I can break here is, I mean, it's gotten a lot better, I'd say, the last 5 years because of Instagram, but a lot of people still, especially women, still believe that if you touch one weight, you're just going to Hulk out and become, the Rock overnight. You're going to put on 50 pounds. Like I always say, I wish that would be the story for me. Believe me, everyone, it hasn't worked out for me that way. Did you ever have that feeling when you started out, or fear? And even if you haven't, I can guarantee that there's been at least a few women that have come up to you and had that similar concern. What is your response to that?
Honestly, when I started this, I wanted to look jacked. Like I wanted to be big, but it's taken years to see muscle definition, and I'm lean. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that ask me that, I'm like, it will take you years of hard work. Like mm-hmm. Not only years, but you have to be consistent. You have to eat a lot and the right food. You're not going to get big overnight. Like you'd have to work your butt off. So no worries there.
Oh, and you have to do other stuff too that we don't talk about. But yeah, it's especially for women, just because you don't have that natural testosterone that guys do, and even guys, it takes forever. I mean, for me, it took years upon years, and yeah, it's really one of those things. And I always love to tell the story. When I got to college, it's when I really started to work out and take it up a notch. And one of my good friends, she would always say to me like, "Hey, I know you work out a lot, and I kind of want to go with you, but I'm afraid of putting on the muscle. I don't want to get so big and bulky." And then finally one night, I just snapped and told her like, "Hey, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse that when we go to clubs, when we go out to eat, weighs more than most of the dumbbells in the gym, and you're not putting on any muscle from lugging that thing around 24/7." And then that sort of convinced her, and it's just one of those things where as soon as you go in and try it, you're going to realize just how wrong you were, and it's one of the best things that you can do, especially for fat loss. I mean, having that high metabolism, like you said, that high metabolism is the number one thing that's really going to help you, and the diet is too, but the metabolism is a huge component. So it's just one of those things about just convincing those people. And another big stereotype that a lot of women have had, and this especially goes for like high school and college weight rooms, there's always this misconception that there's going to be like these big 400-pound guys in there that are going to be like super intimidating and are going to, make it an uncomfortable environment to work out in. And to that, I always tell the story. I mean, it's like, people don't realize that 99% of the people in there could care less that you even exist because they're too busy focusing on their own workouts. That's one thing that I had. I mean, I had a similar story where I was a freshman in high school. My brother was a senior, and he was the starting quarterback on the football team. So everyone was sort of looking at me where it was like, what's the little Johnson going to be like? I mean, my nickname was Lil Johnson, and yes, I realize the irony in that nickname. But so they would always, kind of give me crap in the weight room. But I understand how that can be sort of a fear, but it's just one of those things too, where it's just going into the weight room and just figuring that out. Did you have any specific fears when you were entering the weight room? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I mean, it's been years. I've been in the gym for years since high school, but I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. So in high school, I was kind of uncomfortable because I felt like I was, I didn't have any muscle definition. I didn't really know a lot. So I remember feeling a little uncomfortable, but I found a lot of my workouts online from Instagram and whatever else, and you just keep going, and you really do realize that no one cares what you're doing. I mean, people look at me and whatever, but like everybody mostly just cares about their own workout. And if they do, who cares? I just love being there, and I'll like jam out to my music and do whatever I want. You just have fun in there, or do whatever you want.
Absolutely. Unless you're one of those guys who's like trying to do like those weird exercises that you see on YouTube where like they're literally like about to break the machine, like people aren't going to care. And then even if you do something like that, then they'll just be laughing at you. But it's like you deserve that. If you're like one of those people who is like trying to like rip I don't know. Those are some of the funniest videos that I love to watch. But yeah, it's like you got to learn the proper techniques. But how important to you too is having that supportive cast? I mean, how's your family been for your adjustment into health and fitness? How have they supported you?
It's actually pretty hard because a lot of people think, especially during prep, it's really hard for your family because it's so demanding and you look like a crazy person. And I had to convince my family a million times, like, no, I'm not. I'm okay. I'm eating. I'm not starving myself. Like, I honestly eat like triple anybody I know. And it's just, so it's a lot of convincing, but show day definitely changed most of their minds. My family came and they loved it. They had so much fun and they were so happy, and they're like, we finally see what you were working for, But it's really hard. A lot of people are judgmental about the whole process. And I think partly that has to do just because it makes them uncomfortable because they're not working towards their goals,
That too, yeah. Well, and
But
I gotta ask, being from Minnesota, but being in Wisconsin, that's the land of, beer and cheese, basically. That's what we come to think. So how hard is that for you too, especially during prep, knowing that those two things are so ingrained in the culture? And for people who don't realize, Wisconsin has some of the highest drinking percentages in the entire country. I think they're the number one state when it comes to, alcohol consumption and also just cheese. And those are two really big, sort of fatty foods. But how hard is that for you being in a state where that's so ingrained into the culture to sort of lay down from that during prep?
Honestly, I am a grandma. I love staying home on the weekends. I just work out, meal prep. I don't go out and drink, so I'm fine with that. And then also, I don't have a craving for alcohol or cheese. So
we found the one person, everyone.
Yeah.
I like to make that joke.
I don't know. While everybody's out drinking, I'm kind of I'm warm in the house getting stuff done, and I'm so happy I'm not going to be hungover tomorrow.
That's true. I've had friends that have gone to college in Madison, and I've visited all the time. And yeah, it's like I went to Freak Fest in Madison. Yeah, and that's just a whole that's a whole different podcast. I could do a whole story on that.
Too.
Yeah, it's definitely a sight. Yeah, I was very, very, very I was very tired, we'll say, the next week, basically. So, yeah, it's just a whole another experience that, and that's just really one of the things that I love to stress about is, just basically being able to overcome all of your societal obstacles too, because like you said, it is a huge culture over there when it comes to those two sorts of things, really. During your prep, what would you say is your main food that you ate? Did you have any specific food that you really had the most?
I every day since high school, I've eaten my bowl of oatmeal. So I just adapted it, I guess. But I eat oatmeal with peanut butter on it every day. I can't go without peanut butter for sure.
That's a huge fatty thing too. So you got to really adjust to that.
Oh, I know. It was. My fats weren't terribly low, but that was my fat source was peanut butter. It was my joy. But also I did sweet potatoes for my carbs post-workout, which I love anyways. So that was kind of a treat. Mostly everything I eat has something sweet. So
yeah, literally 2 years ago, I went through a period where I gained 10 pounds in a month, and I was like, what am I doing or whatever? And then I realized, eating that peanut butter jelly sandwich every day really, really wasn't helping. So then as soon as I looked at the thing for peanut butter, I was like, oh crap, I had no idea it was this big. So then I cut that off. So now I don't have them as much. But yeah, that was one of those big things that people don't realize. Yeah, peanut butter is one of the fattest things that you can have, but it's just, it like you said, it's so good. So just portion yourself. It's one of the hugest things I can talk about.
I used to eat a big spoonful of it when I was younger. So now I'm weighing it. So it's,
and plus we're all tricked by that. We're all tricked by the worst thing that ever happens to us, and that is our teenage metabolism, where we can get away with basically anything. I still, remember the days where I could have a milkshake basically every day in the cafeteria. I'd go to get a milkshake after school with a couple friends and have 2 hamburgers and just fries and not gain 1 ounce. And just, it's if only we could maintain that the rest of our lives. But unfortunately, I just turned 24 a couple months ago. So I'm, at that age where I still enjoy the benefits of that youngest metabolism, but I do see it slowly starting to creep up where I was like, okay, yeah, I really got to get things straight in the next couple of years before, that old person metabolism hits where you can't have 1 milkshake without gaining 10 pounds. So you gotta, it's really one of those things that I really, everyone's, I think, got to look forward to, unfortunately. But one of the things that I really came to find out when I started adapting the healthy and fit lifestyle, I was in good shape before when I was in baseball, but once I got into college and, really put on a lot of muscle and put on a lot of size, the one negative thing that I found out is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. Every time I'm still at home with my parents for the time being for a couple more months. So every time they come home with groceries, it's always Ryan. Basically, I have to basically lift the car into the driveway with all the groceries. So what has that been a similar experience with you where you found that because of the way that you look, even though you can look super lean and dieted down, that people just assume that you might be able to do favors for them when it comes to, hey, Taylor, can you come help me move? Have you ever had scenarios like that?
Honestly, that's so funny. I'm tall, so I guess reaching stuff, but during prep, I was exhausted. And so I actually had the opposite. I got to ask people to do stuff for me because sometimes I couldn't carry stuff. I know I had muscle, but I was so exhausted. I'm like, I can't carry this up the stairs. So I got help.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've heard stories about, and I'm also 6'3", so that doesn't really help when people look at my height then too, then they just say, "Oh, he can do anything." So that's the one benefit,
Right.
that's the one stupid thing. And people who say like, "Oh, how can you be exhausted for that?" I always tell the story of I used to do in high school like those bicep burnouts where you'd start at like 80
Mm.
pounds and you'd go all the way down to like whatever weight you had. And by the time I'm down to like 10 pounds, I mean like some of the smaller guys would give me so much crap, and then I'd, but that's one of those things where you do get really fatigued and sore. So yeah, I mean that might be a sight to see for people who like take one look at you and they're like, oh, she needs help carrying those groceries. But yeah, when you get so leaned out, it really gets fatigued. And I also love to talk about,
Mhm.
prep brain. Most people don't realize that when you are dieted down like that, your brain, some funny things can happen. Like we've had people who've gotten into car accidents because their brain's just so foggy. We've had people, you can be very forgetful about things. I mean, you just have like your mood swings can be pretty bad because you're kind of hangry sometimes. What has your experience been like with prep brain? And do you have any funny stories about like forgetting stuff or being, just fun things that have happened to you?
I can't think of anything in particular, but I remember like a stage, it was towards the end of the prep before my carbs got high again. I was kind of my plateau stage, I guess. And I was so tired and I waitress on the weekends and I was doing a double. So I was getting my 20,000 steps in at work, and then low calories and my cardio and my weights. And I mean, I would just forget little things and I'm like, this is prep brain, because you're so exhausted.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
yeah,
now
I mean, that's a real thing. So.
absolutely. And now I got to ask, how did you waitress too, being on the food? I mean, just seeing that food all the time and coming around it. I mean, that just takes so much willpower. Was there any tips that you had to give for yourself? Because I mean, I don't care what anyone says. If I'm waitressing and I'm on prep, there are going to be times where I was like, okay, just one French fry, where I was like, nope, can't do it. Was that a big struggle for you?
So the restaurant I work at is actually a brewery, and the
Oh,
only food really is pizza.
oh, yeah.
And so I was good because beer and pizza I can live without. The smell, sometimes you get hungry, but I always packed it's kind of funny. I pack a lunch everywhere I go. Like I have my fit box and it's pink. And so everybody at work calls me lunchbox because I carry it everywhere I go. So I always have my snacks. So I have my protein bars, my rice cakes, anything, like everything I need is in there. So
And that's always great to come prepared. I used to do that when I was at work. I don't do it now anymore because they do have some like protein things there, which is really really nice. But when you were also working, you do your 20,000 steps, do you still do cardio for that day, or does that sort of work as your cardio?
I usually, if I was doing a double, that would be my rest day because it'd be like an active rest day. But it's exhausting because you've done cardio other days of the week and lifted weights. But there are days when I did all of it in the same day. So that, I mean, and a lot of the times I try to do that on my high carb days so that,
Yeah.
I wasn't exhausted. I planned everything out, but there were days when I was just like, I wanted to sleep. So, I
Oh,
didn't feel
yeah.
hungry.
Oh yeah, like I work at UPS, so it's a very physical job. I mean, I'm a supervisor, but I still need to get in those trucks sometimes and help unload. So I have days where it's hard for me, even when I'm done, because I get around like 20,000 steps too for
Mhm.
sometimes my 6 hour shifts that I do, just because I'm always constantly moving. But one of the things that I really struggled with was still having that positivity or still having that energy to work out after logging. Because they call me, my nickname is Muscles at UPS, because whenever there's like a 70-pound package which needs a separate load, they always call me in to help it put it in. So some days I'll load in like 100 to 150 and I'll be lifting them. So I'm basically, deadlifting them, except a little bit higher. So when you do that like 150 times throughout a day, your back can sort of hurt and you don't really want to work out. But on days where you have felt tired from working, your job where you could be walking around constantly, what are some tips that you've used to sort of still maintain that energy and that positivity to be able to work out?
I most of the time love being there. It's my favorite time of the day. But when you are really tired, or it's a leg day and a cardio day, you're like, oh, I really don't want to be here. I'll listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video. I always get my head in the right place. So whatever I have to do that, to get there, and I take my pre-workout and then I usually get in the zone. But
Believe it or not, I have never taken pre-workout, but that is something that I really think that I really got to get into. What specifically, I mean, I've talked to people about pre-workout, but what specifically do you think that does for you? Is it just kind of a big stimulant for you, or it really just gets you in the mood where because sometimes I've had workouts where like you feel like you want to work out, but then at the last second you're like, no, I'm not going to work out today just because something happens. But is that sort of one of those things where it can sort of take away that mindset?
yeah, I mean, honestly, so I take Warrior Fuel supplements, and I look forward to drinking my pre-workout every day. Like I started taking it, I think at the beginning of the year. I had never taken pre-workout before because I don't really think I need it. I'm a morning person. I don't need caffeine. I don't drink coffee, or drink pop. I don't need caffeine, but it was like a treat kind of, and it definitely gives you a pump, which I love. It's just part of the routine that you look forward to. Like I had that, my rice cake or, rice cakes, my podcast, my music, and it's part of the routine that you look forward to every day. So
Yeah, I mean, I am the exact opposite. I am not a morning person at all. I mean, even I've tried twice. My whole 5 years that I've really gotten, into the health and fitness. One time in college, I didn't sleep at all at night, so I figured might as well get a workout in, and that was 5 a.m., and that was the worst workout of my entire life, where I went back to my room, and then I literally just collapsed. And then one day when I was at home, I had nothing to do, so after I'd gotten up at 8 o'clock, so I worked out at 8:30, and yeah, it's not. So I usually tend to work out later on in the day, but I work at nights now, so that's a whole different struggle. But anyway, so now we go to our favorite part of the podcast, my personal favorite and the audience personal favorite, our little questionnaire, where I'm Taylor here about a dozen or so questions and see how she stacks up to all the other health and fitness guests. So for our first question, Taylor, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Blase. It's old, but Ty Dolla $ign. Also, Ariana Grande. Anything. I've been just cycling through her music. So
yeah, that's definitely great too. I mean, I'm one of those old school where you got to get me some Metallicas or some Iron Maidens just in there. But I have a problem. I usually work out at home because we have a pretty nice setup downstairs. But when I do go to gyms, I'm one of those people where I got to wait for the beat to drop. So sometimes, for example, if I'm doing a lat pull down, I might be waiting there for 20 seconds, and then people are looking around. They're like, "What the heck is this guy doing? What is he what's wrong with him?" It's no, I'm waiting for the beat to drop so I can get the perfect drop thing for it. So that's one thing that I do sort of struggle with. But now for our second question. Out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train with any celebrity, who would it be?
The first one that comes to mind is Steve Cook. I don't know if he's a celebrity.
Oh, yeah, we do fitness celebrities too, yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, Steve Cook. I was going to say, thank God, because Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you are going to be our 55th health and fitness guest when I post this. He has been the answer 48 of the 55 times.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's understandable, but for me personally, I'd go with an Arnold or something just because, it's Arnold, and I've always said I would love to hear him in his Austrian accent, yell at me, put that weight down or something like that, where that's my life goal right there. But now for our third question, out of all the celebrities, if you could train any celebrity on the planet, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. I would probably, I can't pick someone, but I'd probably say someone who is overweight just so I could show them how good it feels to be healthy.
Oh yeah, Kevin Hart's our most popular answer, but I always say to that, I'd laugh too much, he'd be too funny, so it wouldn't work. But yeah, someone like Jonah Hill I think would be great too, because he's the guy where he gains and loses 100 pounds, twice a year, where it's just I don't understand what that's doing to his body. But yeah, someone who's over, I mean, that would be great too. But now, what is one food that you always need to have in your fridge?
Greek yogurt.
Ooh.
It's my froyo substitute. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's actually our first time with Greek yogurt. So that is our first. Usually we get chicken or eggs, or another weird one that I found out is mustard. A lot of bodybuilders say that, or competitors say that too, but I didn't realize it's because mustard doesn't have zero fat. It has almost 0 calories, so it's a huge thing that people put on there. But now, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, ice cream is my favorite food ever. Probably cookies and cream.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good one. Mine is the chocolate chip cookie dough blizzard from Dairy Queen. I mean, you give me one of those. Oh, yep. But now I'm getting excited now that we're getting in the season for those pumpkin pie blizzards, which are...
Actually, I logged a mini pumpkin pie blizzard into my macros on Sunday, and my local Dairy Queen closes for the season, and that was their last day. And I drove past, and I was 2 hours late, so I didn't get it, and I wanted to cry. Yeah, that's my favorite blizzard.
That is. And now that, I mean, Thanksgiving, and now this is not on the questionnaire, but I always like to ask now that we're getting close. For Thanksgiving, what is your go-to meal that you look forward to the most during Thanksgiving?
I just wrote on my calendar on Thanksgiving, I just wrote pie with a heart. So pumpkin pie.
The whipped cream and everything. Oh my God. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. So
yeah.
And then, turkey's all right, but we have the best potatoes too for me. But the potatoes take cake. So absolutely. And now, what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
I'm from a small town, so I milked cows for 5 years. I worked on turkey farms for about 5 years. just stuff like that people would never know.
Yeah, I mean, and my dad's from a small town that had a population of like 200, so we visit all the time. So I got to milk cows. I mean, I did that like once or twice, but yeah, it's definitely just a huge adjustment too. Because I've grown up in a big city of like 80,000, going to the town of 200, so it is a huge adjustment. But yeah, that is really cool. And also, I saw on your Instagram you're a hunter too.
Yeah, I usually bow hunt, but I actually didn't go this year because I was so cold.
Oh yeah.
And it was competition season, but hunting season, gun hunting is next weekend.
Glad that you said that you bow hunt, because for all those people that just talk about hunting, I was like, bow hunting is the real form of hunting, because it's so easy to shoot something with a rifle, but when you got to actually bow hunt it, that actually takes a little bit of skill. So when you're just talking about a guy who just has a rifle and just shoots, it's like, come on, anyone can do that. But with a bow, that takes some talent. And what has been the most accomplished thing that you've got, that you've shot and killed when you've hunted?
2 years ago, I shot a bear.
What?
Yeah. So it's on my Instagram. Wow. So I shot a bear, 315 pounds, and then with my dad. And then the weekend after that, my dad shot a 400-pound bear. So it was kind of a fun season.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've never had someone on here who shot a bear, and yeah, that's got to be scary in and of itself, because I mean, bears to me they're like the ultimate predator, especially for that where we live. So yeah, that's awesome, and I highly recommend everyone. Well, I'll leave the link to her Instagram down below, but I'll save all that stuff for the end. But everyone go and check that out then, if she has a photo of it, because that's really, really cool. So yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I was like, oh my god, that's awesome. So now, what's a secret talent you have?
Probably being able to eat as much as, like, I'm a bottomless pit.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, the life of being that. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, my secret talent is that I'm ambidextrous, so I can write with both hands and I can throw with both hands, and it has its advantages. So now, what is one thing that you would change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the all-seeing power to do so?
I would change the fact that people can use drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I would make it all natural for everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, I hate to burst everyone's bubble. I've had so many of them on this show, but like, if you're looking at those top level people, it's 99% that they're probably doing something. I mean, there might be one just because of freak genetics, but more than likely it's everyone. Once you reach that pro level, or once you reach that top level, and that's another thing too that I would just like is just you got to make it, because like so many people look at these people for inspiration, and then they don't realize that they're doing stuff to make themselves look that way. That it really just is a huge shock to everyone's system. But I do appreciate now, like we've talked about in the last few podcasts, that there is this clarity now where people are admitting to it, like on their Instagram post, or they're like, natty no more is like a hashtag that they use. So it's like, it's good to at least let these people know what you're doing, because then they can realize, like, hey, that work came with, I mean, no qualms at all with people who do use that. I mean, you still have to put in the work no matter what. It still takes a lot of hard work. It's not like that all of a sudden just makes you so big just taking it once or whatever. You still got to put in the work and effort, but it's just letting people know is another huge thing for me too. So now, what is one item that you would die to have if it went up for auction?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is food. So is this like a regular item?
Yeah, or it could be like any item. Like if anything in the world was up for auction and you could have it, what would be the first thing that you would want?
I'll just say the first thing that came to mind. Last year, I tried the sugar cookie Pop-Tarts, and they went out of stock immediately, and I had only bought 3 boxes, and so I was devastated, and so I just bought my first box yesterday.
Oh, yeah. For me, if we're talking food, my ultimate childhood thing was those mini hamburgers they had at Burger King for like a year and a half, where they'd be like the 8-pack of like slider things, like those I'd go and have those every single weekend. Yeah, that's my number one thing. So now, what was the last TV show that you binge watched?
I actually am not a Netflix person. I can't sit still that long, but I'm trying to get through This Is Us.
Oh, yep.
I'll watch stuff while I'm like getting ready, but I don't sit and watch TV.
I've heard so many good things about that show, but I have never seen it, so I definitely got to go and look into that. So now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
I'm a Food Network person, so I just watch Food Network all the time. I watch The Pioneer Woman.
Oh, yep. During Halloween season, my favorite, because then they have those Halloween Wars, which I watch that all the time. That's my favorite. I mean, how they make some. I mean, it's like, why don't they ever give those cakes out to the public, like after they make them or whatever, and just be like, here, enjoy these things. But at Mall of America, where it's actually in my hometown, so that's my one other claim to fame, is they had that Buddy's Cake Shop from Cake Boss opened up there. So I haven't visited that yet, but I've had a lot of friends that go there, and they love all the cupcakes and everything else that they get. But now, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
I love Bridesmaids.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good one. But for me, my ultimate date night movie, and I mean, for any of my guy friends out there, pause it for the next 5 seconds because I don't want you to hear this. But Princess Bride. You put Princess Bride on. That's my ultimate go-to movie. I mean, I've watched it so many times where I could, or no, I've had some movies where I can quote like it from start to finish, but for Princess Bride, yeah, you put me at any scene and I'll be able to tell you what's said. I mean, I've watched it so many times. It's one of those movies, even now, still to this day. If it pops on, like I had one time I was typing my final thesis paper and it popped on, and I paused my final thesis paper for an hour and a half just to watch it. So it's awesome. So now, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
I would just say eat real food, eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full, and have treats once in a while. Definitely don't starve myself.
Absolutely. It's just one of those where you just got to get that healthy. I mean, because a lot of people don't realize the nutrition is 80%. Abs are made in the kitchen. Like the saying goes, it's just one of those things where the nutrition is so important, where you could work out, 7 days or 6 days a week and have that rest day, just hard or 2-hour training sessions, just nonstop. And even if you didn't have the right nutrition, you would see minimal gains, if any, just because it's just the nutrition is just so, so, so important. And what would you say if someone were to walk up to you on the street and say, like, oh my God, you look amazing, I want to sort of adapt a more healthy and fit lifestyle? What would be your biggest piece of advice for that person starting out in order for them to be successful?
I would say, like, obviously diet, look at your diet, be consistent. First thing I always tell people is make sure you're drinking a lot of water, make sure you're eating real food, and you know what real food is, and be active all day. So those are like just the little things to start out with.
And have you thought about doing any sort of coaching, or are you a coach, or what is your current on that?
I'm actually looking to start doing that. I wanted to get done with my own first season and focus on myself, but now I am looking into doing a personal training certification and getting some lifestyle clients, not bodybuilding. But
oh yeah, absolutely. So have you started taking the classes, or what is your current process, or are you just waiting for the right time?
I'm kind of planning on doing that next month. I'm deciding between which certification I want, but I think NASM is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I've just been so busy post-show that I didn't exactly know what I want to do, but I know once you set the test date.
So what are your plans now for Thanksgiving and all the holidays coming up eating wise? Do you plan on just allowing yourself to enjoy it, or is there going to be any restrictions going on?
That's a hard one for me because in the past couple of years I've restricted myself and or completely went hog wild. There was no in between. And that's kind of why I started this program. But I am deciding on how I feel that week as far as my weight and stuff. But I'm kind of thinking I want to just take a day off of tracking. I'm also looking into making some macro-friendly stuff.
So, and again, everyone, go and follow Tayler. I'll leave the link to her Instagram down below. I highly, highly recommend it. Like I always say, she'll inspire you to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies and start adapting that healthy and fit lifestyle. But where do you see yourself in the next year? Like a year from now to this date, what would be your goal right now?
I am actually taking a year off of competing. Hopefully next year I am a lot, more muscle mass, and I'm going to hopefully, I want to say, get my pro card. So compete to get my pro card.
That's awesome. And then when it comes to being in the Midwest area, when it comes to health and fitness, one of the things that I always like to talk about is, like we already discussed, like the big weather changes, but we also, one of the things that people don't realize that the food is huge. Like we kind of talked about with Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa. I mean, the food can be really, really huge. I mean, there's a big, there's a big culture around, that healthy, or not even that healthy, but just that getting together as a family and just eating meals and everything like that. Have you had any plans to sort of help out your family personally, try to adapt that more healthy and fit lifestyle when it came to sort of introducing things? It makes things so much easier if you get your family to sort of come along with you. Obviously, don't go to the extreme, but just sort of make those little changes that can help you personally.
Last Christmas, my mom did, I think it was Christmas Eve, she did like a taco bar, but like we could do salads too because she knew that I could eat that. So that was really nice. They'll have like stuff available for me at meals, but I feel like most of them want to eat what they want to eat. So.
Oh yeah, and I mean you can't blame them. It's around the holiday time, but again, I mean Tayler, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
I guess I would say my coach Jessie Palmer, because she's, whenever I need her, she's always available whenever I text her, and she was my inspiration for doing a show. And also, I would say my sister, because my first show, she came with to everything. She drove me around, took my progress pictures, went and got all my anything I needed. She was like my personal assistant. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So again, everyone, go and follow Tayler down below. Expect big things from her in the next year. We can see, you can watch her progress over the year. And again, Tayler, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. It was really, really, really great talking to you. And again, you guys, Tayler, check her out down below. Links down below. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.